like 30 degrees in here. Is it just me?
We're just prepping for the apocalypse that's coming in June.
Really?
When we're sweating the brains
Oh.
out.
I was like, better win some games then.
It's not baseball.
Okay.
I knew that's what you were thinking.
I should have picked a
Yeah.
later month.
Yeah.
It's like, shoot, wish it would have just happened last year.
But yeah, that'll help, right?
Going on the road facing Missouri, what do you expect to see from them?
You know, I'll start to dive into them tonight. Honestly, like right now, all my focus is on our players and our team and helping them. You know, I think we do a really good job scouting. I do, and we'll get to that. I think Coach Jackson, you know, some people have familiarity with him around here because he was at Southern. Very good coach, very intelligent. I've said this before, you know, teams with first-year coaches, there's kind of like an innocence to that first year and connection, I think, that's strong, and it appears that they have that. I mean, they swept Florida 2 weeks ago, got a win at Georgia. So I expect a great challenge. Never played there before, so don't know a whole lot of what to expect about the environment and those types of things. So we'll get there early and dig into that.
Are you familiar with Carrick at all?
I met him this year for the first time at the SEC coaches meeting. Is the first time. I obviously knew who he was, knew he's a really good coach, and a lot of respect for him. And you know, the AD that was there, I do know she's not there anymore, but really good at hiring coaches, and no surprise she picked him.
Without knowing him, can you speak to maybe the journey that he's been on to start SWAC and wind up in Memphis?
Pretty awesome. You know, I mean, when you look at his baseball experiences, they're very very diverse, however you want to say it. And, you know, just in the short interaction that I had with him, you know, came away really impressed and, you know, just talked to coaching for a few minutes and how things were there. And, you know, obviously we're competitors, so didn't really elaborate on like a plan or anything, but you could tell. And, you know, I don't say a whole lot in those SEC coaches meetings, to be honest with you. But, I mean, he was jumping right into the conversation, and it's a very impressive guy.
Last week, I think you talked about just making it, I don't want to say simplifying
Yeah.
the process, but you were breaking it down to accomplishing goal per inning.
Yeah.
Did you feel like that took root?
You know, it's really an interesting dynamic evaluating this thing right now. You know, obviously we're the defending or reigning national champions. Certainly a high standard. I do believe we have good players. You know, the schedule's been tough. Like, and you know, we expect to win every game that we play, but it's been tough, and so you have to kind of look at it as like the play and the game, and yet, you know, the opponents that we've played, you know, particularly on the road, I think they're 2 and 3 or whatever, and it make it hard in some areas of the game. Looking back at last weekend, the positives, obviously, I thought. We were much better from a starting pitching perspective. I thought Gage did a good job. It didn't help him on defense because we were trying to ignite a little bit of offense. I thought Luke was exceptional, obviously. You know, and then, you know, Griffin, you know, gave up the hit, but then, you know, kind of did what he's done the rest of the time out of the pen. I thought Nate did a nice job on Sunday. I mean, that was not a friendly place to pitch on Sunday. And out of the bullpen, I mean, just some of our more talented guys, it's starting to take as skill you can use in the game, and we're going to keep going to those guys. And I thought last night's game, the pitchers did a really good job, and some of those guys needed a good outing last night, and was very happy about that. Offensively, I still think we have a lot to do better, and you know, but really for what we're moving with the team is we're going to be incredibly positive. We're going to communicate really well and be really consistent, you know, with them and what we're trying to do, because they really, the players need that right now.
Just one of those pitchers, Aiden Moffitt. What did you like about his 2 outings last week?
I love everything about him. And I know you've been following, but if you've followed our team at all, like, I'm constantly trying to get him out there because the upside is so great that he doesn't have to be perfect. and he can still get outs. And what has been the problem is 2 outs and 2 strikes getting us off the field. Like, that's the different. That's why we are where we are, is we're not hitting with runners in scoring position, which I've made some adjustments to try to take some of the pressure off of the team with that as best I can in terms of what we're doing. And on the pitching side, like, we have to get off the field. Like, I mean, it happened the other day. It's like we get to 2 strikes, we give up a 3-run homer to Christian Moore. Well, then Tommy immediately comes up and hits a 2-run homer. Now, the pitching matchup might not have been the same if the game is 4-3 or 3-2 as opposed to 6-2. But let's say it all stays the same. Now we have the lead with 6 outs to get if we get off the field. And, I mean, that's one example of many examples. I mean, you know, we were ahead in the 6th, and we didn't get off the field. And so it's like the inflection points in the game, you know, it's really easy. You can go back to all of them. I mean, we had the lead at Arkansas in all 3 games. Now it's in the 5th inning, 4th inning, whatever. So is that really a lead, you know, on the road in the SEC? But just being better in those tipping point moments in the game. And, again, I know it's a midweek game, but we won all of them last night. I mean, we had a lead. We walked a guy in the 8th inning, immediately got a double play. Completely changes the game. Like, if you're watching, like, is it win probability? Is that what they do on ESPN? Like, I love watching that in, like, football. Like, but, like, you see it in the baseball games, and, like, it, like, would have shot way down and then shot way up. Like, we just need to be better at those points. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that we haven't, but just going forward, like, trying to win those.
In terms of getting off the field with 2 outs, is one of the reasons why you want to pitch Cam and Aiden more in those scenarios because of just the fact that they have explosive stuff?
Yeah, they're going to pitch from this point forward. And, you know, Aiden, I told him at the beginning of the year, like, we needed more strikes, but, like, I'm going to get you in there when I can. And we did the first couple weeks. And then, you know, Houston was just like was probably our best week of the year. It didn't happen. And not that we lost track of it, but then when we came back, we had 3 tight games against Xavier. And then we got him in that midweek against North Dakota State, and we've pitched him every week, you know, since then. And, you know, I think it's interesting, like, he may still walk a guy, but he can get them out. He doesn't have to be perfect because the fastball's so great. Then it became land the slider. Okay, you land the slider with the fastball that you have, that you're starting to throw more strikes. Now you're going into SEC games. So he pitched twice this weekend. Pitched great on Friday night. Thought he pitched good on Sunday. Christian Moore, great player. I mean, I think I told somebody, I think I told you, like, I mean, like, I'd love to have that guy on our team. Like, you know, in a small ballpark, you know. But other than that, he was outstanding. And one of the key players, if not one of the most key players on our team for the rest of the season and moving forward.
Over the years, Coach, when things haven't gone your way, what do you have to, yourself personally, pitfalls that you have to guard against?
Yeah, no doubt. You know, and a couple weeks ago, I actually said this, like, you know, this has been such a great program. Like, you wonder if they ever had a tough stretch, like, honestly. Like, you know, it's always been a lot of good fortune. And so I feel like, hey, you know what, I'm actually equipped to this because almost made the NCAA tournament one year with a team that had a 6.36 ERA. That was not easy, you know. And it was very similar where I think UCLA was number 1. We had to play them on the road. Arizona State was number 3. Had to play them on the road. Now the Pac-12 has changed a lot in the last 3 years. But we got through that, and we won 13 of our last 14 games. 13 out of our last 14 games that year, and then staying with it. So kind of what I've just come to is, like, what do these players need right now? It doesn't matter what Jay Johnson thinks we should do. Like, what do they need and how to help them? And that is my entire focus. And, you know, I'm having a lot of player meetings, one-on-one meetings today. This is a 15-minute break in it. I've been going since 9, and I'm going to go till practice, then I'll go after practice and then meet with everybody else once we get to Missouri to try to help those guys out.
But are you prone to work more hours than humanly possible?
You know, I try to keep if you preach, like, process, you can't change with the winning and losing. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite, you know. You get a little more tired when you lose, I'll tell you that. But, yeah, no, it's we'll stay with it. You know, like I said, I mean, not where we want to be. You know, we are where we are. Like I said, there's a lot of things you can go back and look at, but what we can't control is what we have in front of us, and you know, that's what I really need them to do. And so trying to meet them where they're at, you know, and get them in a better direction. Again, like, we want to win the games, but Aiden Moffitt, super positive. Cam, super positive. Starters last weekend gave us a chance to win. And with that team that we played, like, offensively, they have a vibe that we had last year. Like, it feels like it's their time offensively. You know what I mean? Amick transferred like Tommy did, you know. Moore's played for 3 years. Burke's played for 3 years. Those guys are battling it out to be the all-time home run leader at Tennessee. I mean, Inslee hit a home run against us in the College World Series. Stark was the starting catcher. And so Tiers, you know, Dreiling, like, you could see how good those guys were going to be last year, you know. That's a lot of firepower, you know. So I'm really pleased with the pitching kept us in the game. I thought we were great until the 7th inning on Sunday on the mound. Like, Friday, defensively, it was, you know, we made 3 basically defensive mistakes that led to 3 of their 6 runs. Played better defense the next 2 days, pitched good, and then, you know, that ballpark, that lineup, to hold them down for 27 innings was going to be hard, you know. And but I think a real positive direction in terms of how we pitched last midweek at Tennessee and this midweek.
You mentioned Aiden's slider and landing that thing for strikes. Like, how's that pitch sort of improved, not just with the strikes?
I think just experience, like, getting him out there, and, you know, I'm really proud of him, you know, for sticking with it. And I think it shows ability, where it's been like, hey, you need to do this to get to this. You need to do this to get to this. And he's, like, graduated, like, different levels of that. To now, it's like, it might be 4-2 on Friday, and you're probably going to see him roll out there. You know what I mean? Type thing. And that's pretty awesome.
Does he have a changeup too?
Work in progress, and when it's good, it's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, when it's good, it's really good.
There's one pitch that was 91, and I'm like,
That is changeup.
Yeah,
Yeah. When it's good, it's really good.
Okay.
And I want to say it was against Louisiana Tech. It was Louisiana Tech or Southeastern. Threw a really good one. So it's in there, and that's the next phase, and that's getting him to be a starter, you know, and once that clicks. So again, like, these are all thought out things, and it shows his ability and his drive that he's you know, advancing over the hurdles.
it seems like the changeup is just the pitch that you guys are trying to develop with a whole bunch of different guys, and that's not just with your program. That's probably with a bunch of other college programs. Like, what makes that pitch so tough?
Well, what I'll say is it's not like it's putting it in the hitter's head that it's in there. And it's not so much about getting outs with it, even though you do get outs with it. Like, Greg Maddox made a Hall of Fame career, you know, with a good changeup. But it's also about getting them off your fastball. So the ball that ends up in the seats turns into a foul ball or just a miss hit, maybe fly ball out. And so it also gives you the weapon to get through the order 3 times. And it's like, that's a tough ask in the SEC. That's a tough ask, you know. I mean, Paul's really the only guy that's been able to do it since we got here. You know, Luke has done it a few times, you know, this year, and has done a great job. But I think it's more about putting it in the hitter's head, getting him off fastball. Like, you'll see teams do it to Tommy. Like, in a fastball count, they'll throw the change just to see if he doesn't recognize it and get him to swing to either tip the count or get weak contact. But then maybe it's also being used to, you know, make the fastball play up if they go back to it later in the at-bat.
I know you've talked about how so much of this is just player-oriented and just trying to get those guys in a better headspace.
Mm-hmm.
Is part of that have anything to do, I guess, with maybe having like a 2 or 3 minute conversation about what's still attainable in this season, or do you?
Yeah, you know, like we've done a lot of stuff, you know, and I tried to. I want to say this was Sunday against Vanderbilt, which was gonna be a tough game. It was a friggin' brutal loss Friday night. Easily the worst one of the year. That in Florida, tied for first. Sunday or Saturday, I think it was Saturday, came in for game 3, and I was like, okay, look, like, here's what we need to do to play in the postseason. And then I drew out the entire schedule, And then it's like, okay, then you're going to a regional where you're not playing a team from our league. I think we're going to win. Like, honestly, like there's 12 teams, maybe 13, maybe 14 in our league that could win a regional. The problem is we're playing all of them, and just the way the schedule, we're playing the top half of them. It's just the way that it worked out. It is what it is. So we got to step up, find a way to get through this stretch. We've been great outside of the league. I think we're 20-3. There's not many teams in the country that are 20-3 non-conference. So we kind of went to that, but then it's about knowing what's best for your team. Like, and what's best for your team is getting them like, hey, man, they have the support of our coaches. We're going to keep trying to, like, dial in their play and keep them in the moment. You know what I mean? And so I think at that point I felt like after a tough loss, like they needed to have some hope of what was still out there. But it still comes back to baseball. And then, like, this is a tough weekend. That was a tough weekend this weekend. And doesn't mean all was bad, but, you know, it's a team it's their time right now. Put Arkansas in the same boat. It's their time. We're not that far away, and yet we're far away. And what I mean by that is, like, there's some optimism in going, like, if a team is at that point and you're playing them on the road and you're the defending champ and you're getting everything they have, I mean, you eliminated them in Omaha. You're getting everything that they have, that there were some wins right there. So then how do you get over the hump? It comes back to baseball, and it comes back to those inflection points, and it comes back to helping guys be in tune with what they need to do to execute. And right now, like, they need my support. Like, they do, and that's what they're going to get.
You talked about Jackson being a first-year head coach and not really knowing what to see. They're 7-3 in the month of April. What do you think's kind of clicking? I know you're doing more scouting.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm familiar with a couple of their pitchers. Carter Rustad, he pitched here against us a couple years ago. I really liked him out of the bullpen. That's a good curveball. I'm surprised he's still in college, actually. Thought he would have been on to pro baseball right now. Javen Pimentel pitched for me at Arizona my last year, and has done a nice job. Left-hander, multiple pitches, tough arm angle. So I think they're getting decent starting pitching, and I think in the wins it appears like they've gotten the big hit, you know. And they're playing with good belief, and that kind of goes back to that first-year thing, and they're probably really good at home, you know. So that would be the things that I would probably expect.
What kind of out of nowhere, but Will Helmers is a guy that probably wasn't thought of being a big contributor, but you've been using him often this year. Like, what have you seen in him to kind of keep going back to?
Yeah, I mean, we changed his arm angle. We changed some things relative to helping him become a little more deceptive. He's strong. I mean, he's 22 years old now. I mean, he ripped off a 96-mile-an-hour fastball last night from, like, right here. Like, there's not many guys on the planet that can do that. So it's really cool. You know, was not on the roster in Omaha last year, but he was the first guy in the extra spots in the dugout. Like, I almost listed him as, like, a coach, because that's how important he is to the team dynamic. Like, it's really good to see that. Like, he's a great kid. He's a hard worker. Playing here means a lot to him. You know, we don't have a ton of guys that have been here for all 3 years, and I've never one day thought of, like, is this guy not totally invested in what we're trying to do? And then to stay with it and see him become a real contributor, be on the roster in SEC every weekend, and have success, like, one of the better things that's happened this year.
Hunt made a good point that I hadn't thought about until he made it. It was just kind of the implosion of the Pac-12 was really making the SEC that much tougher with the portal and people being able to kind of just come right away. Have you seen that? I mean, is that a real thing? Is that why we're seeing the conference be as good as it is?
That's a lot.
You don't have to speak to the Pac-12
I had a travel coach.
specifically,
I had a travel coach blame me for that, like leaving to come here, which is not true. And I'm not even deflecting, but it's a way bigger deal. And Nate went to Texas A&M and then came here. People care more out here. Like, that's just, it is what it is. There's more resources. I noticed in COVID. I noticed a big shift in COVID. Like, recruiting changed a lot. We couldn't have campus visits. That was like over like 18 months. Like, we couldn't bring somebody to campus, and we were always battling. Stanford was going to get the Stanford guy. UCLA was going to get the Orange County, North LA guy. but we were going to be on every other player. And then we needed to beat Oregon, Oregon State, Arizona State, and put together good rosters. Well, during COVID, what I did notice is some of the elite high school guys were now starting to fly over us and come out here. And then it's like, okay, wait, I can battle these 2 schools, but I can't battle these 10 and those 2 schools and make sure we're an Omaha program. So I think that shifted a little bit, but the bottom line is, like, one conference did it right with the TV and the SEC network and aligning with ESPN and got resources, and one did it wrong, and it's undoing. And my athletic director at the time, who's now an athletic director in the SEC, he called the whole thing. He's like, this is not good. Like, I'm talking like 9 years ago. Like, I mean, it's just how it goes. Like, you know, you either reap the rewards of hard work and good decisions over a long period of time, which, you know, Commissioner Sankey did, and that deal didn't go very good. And it's affected all the sports. And then, you know, I'll be honest, like, I'm Thursday night, before I got here, I'm preparing for, you know, whoever, Washington State, and then you got a game, if there's an SEC game on TV on Thursday night. And it's just, this is not college baseball anymore. This is on a completely different plan. There's other good teams out there. Oregon State, great team. Florida State, great team. Clemson, great team. All respect for those coaches. This is just on a week in and week out basis. It's different.
You talked about.
Is your sport more than any other, something happens and it causes a chain reaction?
In a game?
Well, to turn around a season or to, you know, momentum. It seems like, you know, your sport, teams can struggle and then they just go on a tear.
Yeah. Good question. I think the nature of it in the SEC is everybody has really good players. So it's hard to win, but if they play good, yeah, you can get some positive momentum going. I've always believed in baseball that has to do with the guy that's starting on the game on the mound that day. And, you know, it's like every time Luke takes the mound, our team feels like we're going to win, you know. And so it's tough to lose last Saturday where we have a run in and we have 2 guys on with nobody out and don't score. And then you're leaving it to one pitch, one play, and they got the big hit. And so you have to credit them for that. I really think it has to do with that. But let's be honest too, like, as human beings, like, whether I don't want them to, like, succumb to their feelings or whatnot, like, that's a real thing. And if they're stepping in the box with a clear mind, total confidence because we've had some success, and it eliminates a lot of the crap, and then you get the best, and then it starts to create whatever contagious hitting. There is something to it, you know. I've leaned to it's about, like, the play in that day, but the mindset has a lot to do with the play. And if you believe you're going to win and you believe you're going to be successful, you got a chance.
So
if you don't, you have no chance.
You don't necessarily need a raccoon to run out on the field.
Possible.
Yeah. Hey, if that works, you know, I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now, but yeah, I'll go wrangle some up outside the river and bring them over here and turn them loose on the field. Yeah. Hey.
So this might be a little random, but I'll ask it anyways. You talked about Will Helmers, it meaning more to him being from Louisiana and playing here. Last year you had plethora of Louisiana talent. Do you think that has played a factor of this year of losing guys like Trey Morgan and Cade?
Well, I would say it has more to do with losing the player that they developed into. You know, and taking some of those guys' best qualities. Trey, one of the best competitors I've ever met. Like, I was actually, like, probably harder on him than any player because, like, I believed in him so much because he time and time again showed, like, he was going to come through. Like, if he ever gave an at-bat away, it's like, come on, man. Like, you're better than that. We know you're better than that because you're on it. I mean, Cade developed into this great hitter. But pride in your performance and pride in, you know, what you're doing, that's a real thing. And those guys definitely had that. And I think numbers-wise, I don't know that we're a ton different as far as in-state kids on the roster than we were last year. It's within 2 or 3. It's not some, like, big number. I think it has to do with, you know, losing those guys that developed into, like, these great players at this level. And that happens. Like, I mean, it's a record of number of players drafted out of the SEC, not out of LSU. And when you lose those guys and lose that great dynamic of leadership. You know, and if it wasn't for injuries, Cade and Gavin might not have been here. If it wasn't for COVID, they might not have been here. You know, so sometimes you need some good fortune. And but I do think it's more of having pride in performance and pride in what you're really doing and being connected to that. And there's a lot of ways to get there and do that, and we got to keep fighting that. And right now, like, you know, a coaching staff, super positive, super engaged with them, behind them, supporting them. My mandates are they respect each other and like they just let go a little bit in the game, and like when we get to those key points, you know, give it everything that they got.
When you're trying to evaluate a guy's performance or trying to develop a lineup, how much are you looking at the TrackMan numbers at all from the previous weekend or previous games or any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we look at everything. Pitcher strength, where they're at today, opponent, what matches up, what lines up good, where the player is right now mentally, you know, is super important, and all of that. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just, say, flip a coin and what's what, you know. So.
Are you getting anything from your numbers on getting guys on, getting them? Are you seeing anything?
Yeah, I think the runner at third with less than 2 outs thing is just a little down. Not far as you would think, but that's what I said. Like, I'm trying to do way more to get him to third with less than 2 outs. So we don't need a hit. And that was what was the frustrating thing about Saturday's game was we didn't need a hit twice and we didn't get him in. You know, it's no secret that's been a struggle. You don't get pitched the same way with runners on base. Like, that's part of it. And you know, we're just talking about some old players last year. Like, they'd been through enough of those to understand it, to drill it. I mean, literally, like in the last game of the year last year, like I put up a video of us getting 2-out RBI hits. Like, hey, man, like this is like what we do. So this little struggle we're going through, like, let's just go back to this. And we were phenomenal in that game. And sometimes it just takes a couple. You know, like Stephen Milam got one on Sunday, and that was great to see. And, you know, Tommy last night, 2-strike RBI single with a man on third, hit a ground ball to third with the middle back, and he's the best hitter that we have, you know. So that was great, you know, to see that. And it's, you know, the Augie Garrido thing, you know, 2-out hitting that's gonna win. And
this might be a little bit obvious, so a question to, at least to a degree, but how important do you think is, you know, just having that more athletic stance and less of the leg kick is for the hitter? Because it seems like you guys aren't huge on, you know, any of these big sort of leg kicks or anything like that.
No, but we have our way, and you know, I'll take Dylan as an outlier a little bit, but if you look at he even moved towards it a little bit, you know what I mean? And if you watch some of his at-bats, like in pro baseball, I haven't seen anything from this year, but last year it's like he's kind of into that same mode. Tommy with 2 strikes. You know, the running joke with those guys was like, if you just did this all the time, you would hit like 600 in college baseball. And those guys are special. Like there's a little bit more wiggle room because you can quickly see how different they are. And both of them came into this thing way more prepared and with talent. So there's a little more leeway in there. I believe in kind of a way that works, and it works in college baseball, and it makes you less pitchable. And I've said this before, we have some guys that, you know, have a lot of power that, you know, aren't quite the elite hitter just yet. Doesn't mean that they won't get there, but just yet. And that's been like a backwards like thing for me of like, hey, good hitter, as you get stronger, as you get older, develop into some of that power and not have to sell out to get to the power, and not quite as much boom or bust. Trey and Cade would be 2 guys I would like. It was a perfect fit, like coming here with those guys and just a couple tweaks, because they had really high-end hitting ability, and then they developed into some power. And so that's just an ongoing thing. But no, you're on top of that. Like, I'm not into the leg kick thing. Yeah.
All ready to wrap up, Jay? Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks.